Let's go back to talk more about the question of Shanghai being endorsed, by the central government as a future international, let me emphasize the word global, financial center for China. To me, this was a pretty significant development, symbolically at least. It was very significant because all along, people had the assumption that Hong Kong is, the international financial center for China, whereas Shanghai is the most important domestic financial center for China. Now that balance, that equation, has changed. I'd like to ask David, right, who has lived in Shanghai, right, for a few years, I guess, right, 3 years. What are the skill gaps, experience gaps of people in Hong Kong, right, who want to develop a career in China, in particular Shanghai? And what do you think are some of the possible measures, for people to close such skill and experience gaps?
I think the most important one is ability to communicate. Whether one can speak Mandarin fluently. This I find, is a major handicap. People like myself, probably can speak the financial language or the economic language very well. But outside the financial exchanges, daily exchanges involving other areas, may not be able to understand that well, unless you really put in effort. And that is a major handicap because you cannot communicate outside your area of professions. And the other one is we don't, in Hong Kong, quite understand what is going on in China. Even though if you are working in China, but still your exposure there is limited. How the political system works, how government works, what are the main policies and all this, which I think require detailed studies, even back into the university education level. And once you get out to work, you may not be in time to understand all this. I think eventually Hong Kong will have to incorporate China political systems and all these political affairs into our maybe even secondary school or maybe a course in the higher education for us to understand how China works. And the other one, I think if we are going to work in China, we have to prove to themselves, to them, that we have value added, much more value added than what they can. They are catching up very fast. Before they turned 5 years, 10 years ago, they turned to Hong Kong as a place where they can learn, or we can help them. But nowadays, the last 5 years or more, everyone is helping them. Everywhere from the world, globally, is helping them, free. They do not need to rely on Hong Kong anymore. They are even more like to know what is happening in the U.S., as the U.S. is the most advanced financial centers in the world, and not Hong Kong, definitely not Hong Kong. So I think our role, to them, our importance to them may decline, and may not be even looked upon as a source of information and knowledge.
I see. So Andrew, do you agree with David's view, because you talk to a lot of employers and job seekers too? Is that also what you consider as the problem?
Yeah, I think I fully agree with what David said. And this China doesn't love us anymore syndrome is going to accentuate itself in the coming years. I think it's good time for all kids or all students to make use of your spare time to learn more about the culture, the system, and how things work in China, so that they be more adept in making more friends from China, boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, and, or both, whatever, and trying to assimilate into the culture. That's more than just the business language. As far as university is concerned, I think that there's great opportunity for universities to launch courses about knowing more about China, how to do business in China, and getting you guys ready for the job market in a couple of years' time.
If I may add
Sure.
on to that, I agree with what David said. I mean, banking is a business, and it's part of the livelihood. You can't isolate from the day-to-day events happening in China. You have to know what's going on in there. Because when we go out and meet with customers, for example, in Hong Kong, I don't talk banking immediately. You know, we talk about what's happening in LegCo, what's happening with, you know, the day-to-day in Hong Kong. And you have to be part of the society. And we need to learn their way of life in order to be part of their society.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, in order to deal effectively with your counterparts, you know, be they, you know, business partners, customers, you know, regulators or whatnot, you have to know more about what they know and what they're interested in, right? You know, this, you know, process of sort of, you know, integration goes beyond your trade or profession, right? You know, it's day-to-day life, it's language, it's, you know, interests, hobbies, you know, politics, sports, and whatnot. It's not easy, eh? It's not easy. Anything, do you think, for anybody, do you think that the government can do anything to promote, you know, this trend, you know, of encouraging more of our youngsters or even practitioners to know more about what's happening, you know, in Shanghai and the rest of China?
At the university level, most probably you know, we have a lot of exchange program. We accept students coming from all around the world, including mainland. And also we send students to other universities, other overseas university and mainland university that facilitate, you know, the exchange process. That enable our students to learn about the mainland and also enable mainland students to learn about Hong Kong. You know, going back to the mainland experience. So, you know, I'm a professor, and also I'm sitting on the board of a fund management house in China. So I have to go back to China as an independent non-executive director. So every time after the board meeting, as a professor, I have to drink with them, you know. Drink. The drink is not red wine, it's drink, you know, hard liquor, you know, it's what the white wine. In Malta, you know, about 60% degree. It is tough. I mean, it's professor, it's tough. But you have to take it as a culture. And then, amazingly, at the dining table, and with a couple of these kind of multi, you can actually communicate with them to know them better, and also enable them to know you better. I mean, all financial market is about trust. It's built on trust. It's a business built on trust. I mean, people need to trust you. You need to trust them. Otherwise, no can do. So I think it's very important to get into them, to know them, to get into their culture. Well, I'm not a good drinker anyway, Casey, but I mean, it's tough.
I think the other thing that that the government could consider, you know, in addition to a student exchange program, maybe the government can think about sponsoring summer internships. Students going up and work there for the summer and gain direct experience before you actually joining the market.
Sure, good. Because we have among our audience senior government officials here today, and in fact the main mission, right, you know, of our FinMan committee is to advise the government on policies, you know, to facilitate the development of our talent base. So all these ideas, I'm sure, will be taken into consideration by the government.